Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of the syndicated talk show, People of Distinction. The talk that gives you an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, alcoleenterprises.com for more info. Email me through benji@alcoleenterprises.com if you'd like to get involved with what we have going. And as always, please continue to like and follow our broadcasts. People of Distinction is internationally syndicated solely due to the love and support that you all continue to give. We're available across all major distributors, and as long as you keep following, we're going to continue to put out the content. Now sit back and strap in, because on the line with us today, we have the impressive Walter P. Benesch. And we're going to be discussing his amazing memoir, It's Me, The Early Years, Letters to My Daughter. It's available through Amazon, through Barnes & Noble, and a whole host of other places, man. But check out his personal website to gather it all. That's walterpbenesch.com. And just to make sure there's no misunderstandings, yeah, we got the traditional spelling of Walter. We got the letter P in there. Benesch, BENESCH.com. There, gather more information on him, on his book, hyperlinks set up to take it to the purchasing pages. You're also going to find another book that Walter has written. That one is called It's Me, From the Big Apple to Beantown. Both of these books are fantastic additions to your shelf, but check back in frequently, man, because Walter is in the process of writing for others and so much more, man. Like we barely scratched the surface, but you're going to want to check it out. One more time, that's walterpbenesch.com. And I quickly want to take an opportunity and point out the fact that Walter was brought to us by Citi of Books. So for writers out there listening in, if you've gone through your process and now you find yourself at a crossroads because you need some assistance moving the book you just worked tirelessly to create, head on over to citiofbooks.com and gather all the ways that their fantastic team is well equipped to help you do just that. And listen, it is an absolute pleasure to have Walter here on the line, man. Listen, Walter has lived a dozen lives, okay? At least. He has captured them all in a series of raw, intimate letters to his daughter. Trust me when I tell you, this isn't your average memoir, okay? It's an emotional excavation to a certain degree of a life lived between trauma and mysticism even, right? And he is here to share how our most fractured moments can actually build the most resilient souls. And I love that notion because it is something that I have mentioned in the past. Like, people, listen, we all understand that our experiences, whether we enjoy them or not, they ultimately equate to wisdom. But the most beautiful thing about it, and I guess the most poignant thing to all of this, is it doesn't always have to be our own experiences that wisdom is derived from. Now, oftentimes it is, but in this instance, and as a father myself to a very beautiful princess, this is something that resonates, man, because I hope that I have the opportunity, maybe not in letter form this way, because God didn't gift me with the power of writing, but I'm a public speaker, I'm an orator, right? So hopefully the things that I've been able to learn can be passed down to her, not only for entertainment, but for guidance, right? For wisdom. And you listening in today are going to be able to benefit from it. Sit back and strap in, man. This is going to be one you're going to enjoy reading. First and foremost, Walter, welcome to the network, man. And thank you for being a guest. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine, thank you. And I think this should be rather fun. You're saying I've already lived multiple lives. Being a reincarnationist, I actually have 5 past life memories to boot.
There you go. What a way to start an interview, man. Yeah, we got to go into that. Okay, so 5 previous lives. You added it in for levity, Walter, but I'm going to take that bait, brother. I'm walking down that line. I'm curious to know, can you tell us about one of your previous lives?
The book actually begins with Mike being killed in the Battle of the Bulge.
Ooh.
I was killed, I think, on December 24th or 25th in the beginning of the Battle of the Bulge. And shall we say, in Buddhism, they say when you go to the upper world, you're supposed to drink from the fountain of forgetfulness. I forgot to drink. So in my early years, I had a complete memory of what actually happened at the battle. And it's described in vivid detail in the book. And it is not pleasant. But can you imagine a 6-year-old child having that kind of memory? It was not good. And thank God I chose the mother that I did, because she was able to, shall we say, exercise those memories. And my companions, who kept on wanting to come visit me from the other side while I was only very young. So that was one of my very early challenges.
Wow. Okay. See, Walter, man, listen, you're doing it to me already, brother. I'm diving down the rabbit hole. I'm drinking from the Kool-Aid here. It aligns perfectly, right? Because your book, the description mentions being raised in a household shadowed by both trauma and mysticism. And listen, I believe we're starting to go into that mysticism side and even possibly a bit of the trauma, depending on how you're looking at it. I'm curious to know, man, having these powerful, seemingly opposite forces rooted within you, how did you experience the interplay between them growing up?
It was one of my major challenges.
Yeah.
I think the key was that this book is not only about me, but it's also a biography of my mother. Mm-hmm. My mother had an interesting experience in herself, in that she had to marry somebody at the age of 16 who was over 50.
Wow.
Divorced him after she allowed him, or shall we say, manipulated a situation where he became a owner of oil wells that were coming in at the time. This is back in the late 20s. Then she dated actually John Carradine, the great actor, which turned out to be another disaster. Then she learned advanced meditation, became a WAC during World War II. And the point, for those who don't know, WAC is Women's Army Corps. But the key is that in the process, she learned a great deal about meditation and esoteric studies and philosophy. And that enabled her to understand what I was going through at an early age and to help overcome it so that I could mature and grow from there.
Yeah. Listen, Walter, I'm gonna pull it back here, man. But listen, I love what you're talking about. What I find fascinating oftentimes is when it comes to memoirs specifically, listen, the writing process, depending on how you're looking at it, can be therapeutic, can be cathartic, but there is no denying that it almost forces you to relive certain experiences. Now, you're talking about your mother's experience and how she, of course, was a pivotal figure in this book and obviously a pivotal force in your life. Talk to us a little bit more about your experience writing this book.
I think the easiest thing is that it started with my daughter. My daughter, when she started college and she was going to Washington University, St. Louis, said, "Papa, I've heard so many strange stories about your early life. Rather than send me the usual blah, blah, blah letters, which contain nothing, give me the letters explaining what you experienced and what you went through." And I threw in my mother's experiences as she related them to me as well. And this was a series of letters that was almost monthly, sometimes twice a month. And then once she started graduate work, not as often. And she, by the way, currently she is an emergency ward doctor in California. Wow. So she's rather successful.
Yeah.
But the key was that she wanted to know about my early experiences and her grandmother, because her grandmother died when she was only 3. Now, thank goodness she was taught shamanistic meditation so that she can still visit her grandmother even today, but that's not on this plane of existence. The last 4 years of my mother's life, she actually lived in an in-law apartment so that I was able to go down and visit her. And the key was that we often went through many of the early incidences of my life so that bits and pieces that I had forgotten, she was able to fill in. So that's what helped make this a rather complete and detailed experience from my early years on.
People, listen, man, you already see, we are already embedded in this roller coaster of a ride. If you want to continue it, remember it's Amazon, it's Barnes & Noble, it's walterpbenesch.com. Head on over there, pick up copies of this amazing book, the other that he has available, but check out the 4 that are still on the horizon. I'm telling you, this is an eventful ride that you're not going to be able to put down. Walter, I want to continue now focusing on your title. Now, listen, very straightforward in a sense. Now that we've heard you talk about what is included, where it initially started, I can see that, but I want to go in further with it, man. Tell us a little bit more about the title and why you chose it to be the representation.
Simply because it describes exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
In other words, I simply kept all the letters, of course written on a computer, but I kept all the letters fairly in order. And so it was easy transitioning the letters into a book format because these were letters written over many years. And I might add, one of the books that I'm working on now is I do a weekly message that's been going out to hundreds of people every week for over 7 years, and that's going to be another book sometime in the future. But it's focused primarily on Freemasonry because I've been involved in the Freemasons for over 50 years. I may also say I've been a student of the Kabbalah, Christian Kabbalah particularly, for over 30 years, and I still consider myself a beginner in that. So I have a lot of interesting background, to say nothing of my, shall we say, 3+ years of living with Nim Chimpsky, the chimpanzee, learning sign language at Columbia University. And I was living in his house because he had a better house than I did.
Imagine that. Listen, you hit on something I think is really key, and it's a crucial component here to the next. You have such an eclectic background, wonderfully impressive, but you've lived, as I mentioned in the opening, so many different lives. I'm curious because when it comes to being an author, maybe I missed it, but I didn't see that as one of them. So who inspired you to become one?
Obviously, my daughter. She was the one who asked me for these letters. So it started basically, obviously, from my memory of being killed in the Battle of the Bulge. Through my early years, I was born prematurely, and the doctors only gave me a 50-50 chance of living because the year before I had a brother that died because he was also premature. The reasons were because my mother's first husband forced her into illegal abortions back in the 30s, or 20s, I should say, late 20s. So she had a hard time carrying a child to birth. And then, of course, my own personal experiences, professional experiences, I started out as actually a cab driver in Manhattan for a while, but I was also a youth worker in Fort Apache, South Bronx during the actual worst years. And then later, a social worker for the welfare department in the District of Columbia. But I ended up getting involved in a business process reengineering unit. So my then wife said, "Hey, there's a job over here at DOD. Apply for that." And I said, "Wait a second, I have no military background. You'd be crazy. I'd never get it." I got it. So I ended up in the Pentagon for almost 18 years. Then I hit a glass ceiling. So I got my final raise and went on over to the Department of Homeland Security, and I retired from there. You're right. I have had a very varied life. Even within those agencies, the different kinds of responsibilities that I took on was really phenomenal. And hopefully sometime in the future that they may be written about too. I also do have a couple of interviews on YouTube, and there are multiple presentations I've done for a group called Sempre Audi, a Masonic study group, that they have posted on their various websites as well.
Yeah.
So if you're really interested in all the things like near-death experiences, which, by the way, came from because I was also assisting a teacher teaching thanatology in a nursing graduate school at Boston University, where I did one of my graduate degrees. And then I have a lot of other experiences. I have a degree in archaeology, anthropology, so I bring those into my weekly messages. So very diverse background. And considering how poor I was to begin with, this is rather remarkable because it was basically 2 years where my mother was begging friends to take me in because we did not have a home.
Wow. Listen, I knew that this was going to be an entertaining ride. I knew this was going to be filled with a lot of wisdom to be gained. I wasn't prepared for the inspiration behind it. This is an inspirational story here, people, amongst a plethora of other things. This is a good one, man. You know what I'm interested in next is really the message behind it all. Because listen, as a father myself, like there's definitely a message there that I'm connecting with and that I'm resonating with. But I know that this is a book that has a lot of things to offer, whether the reader is a parent or not. So talk to us about that. I guess a two-part question here, but both aligned very similarly. One, who is your intended reader and what are the messages that you want them to take?
Basically, those people who are curious about remarkable lives of two people who had unusual experiences. And what the reader would take from the book, first off, that there are many more lives that you can imagine if you just ask people what is their background. So this is my presenting that before I'm asked the question. And the key is, too, is that there's things like reincarnation and past life memories, which are not rare. It's just they're rarely talked about in this country. There's the Division of Perceptual Studies at the University of Virginia Medical School, been studying reincarnation and past and near-death experiences for years. And it's also a reminder that there are UFOs and that the UFOs have been around a long time. It was only recently that the book Eminent came out, warning that they present a imminent danger, and I disagree with that. And the key was that my mother decided to mow an interesting pattern behind our barn in our home in northwestern Connecticut. It was a landing pattern for a UFO. And when he landed, my mother wasn't there. But I ran out, and my poor 6-year-old niece wouldn't go down to greet them like I was supposed to. And so they realized that I was fearful of them. And so they took off. And I guarantee you, they took off at a speed that is impossible even today. So I went running into the house, and I said, "Daddy, did you see the UFO?" And I didn't hear him. And then all of a sudden I heard a noise from my bedroom. My bedroom was the only bedroom that had a window overlooking where the UFO was. And I heard the noise of running on upstairs. There's my father crawling out from under my bed. "Daddy, what are you doing under my bed?" I dropped a screwdriver. "What was the screwdriver doing under my bed?" I lost it there. "Daddy, did you see I didn't see anything." "Daddy, did you?" It was right there. A UFO landed. I didn't see anything. For the rest of his life, all I could get out of him was, "I didn't see anything." But nevertheless, in a perfect equilateral triangle, there were 3 rounded depressions in the hard ground where obviously the pods landed when the UFO landed. So yes, there was actual physical evidence that it was there. And by the way, my mother got a message a few days later: "Don't put that landing pattern out again unless it's a true emergency."
People, listen, man. Okay, I have a lot of other questions that I want to add. I'd love to go into that. Who hasn't just wanted to have that experience? Like, we all think about it, right? Billions of planets and galaxies. We can't be the only one with intelligent life, right? That is so remarkably compelling is what, you know what you got to do, man. I mentioned it before. Check out the website, walterbenesch.com. Because remember, there's another book that's available right now and 4 others still on the horizon. And really what stays with me from our talk here, Walter, is I think it's a beautiful idea, right? That our personal history is actually the very ground we build our future on. And so often, I don't think we examine it from that way. Or let me just throw myself under the bus and speak from my perspective, because I know that there's often times where I have to go back and understand, especially now as a parent, learning to appreciate the journey, learning to analyze where we have come versus where we are going, while at the same time trying to remain present. And your book, I think, is going to offer a mountain of benefit amongst just a very entertaining read. So listen, man, if this conversation resonated with you, carry that feeling forward.
Plus the fact that I haven't gotten into my civil rights demonstrations that I was involved in. And the point was, I was at the original March on Washington.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
And then in college, I was dating. A black gal, beautiful black gal. She's in her picture's in the book. At a time when it was not very, shall we say, acceptable for interracial dating, especially in northern Illinois. And I think it might have been a little contributing factor to me being thrown out of that college. Of course, then that led to a whole different future as well. But how many people can say that they were thrown out of a college for the officially charge of arrogance? That was me.
Okay. So, Walter, this is what we're going to have to do, man. We're going to have to invite you back onto the network. There's just not enough time to go through all of it in one interview. That's primarily why you all need to pick up copies. But we're going to revisit this at a later point because, Walter, my goodness, man, you have stories for days. And this is one I'm going to be thinking about long after our discussion here today. This has been absolutely riveting, and I truly mean it, man. Thank you for comprising the book, because obviously it started off as something so personal for you that you then churned and made public, and I'm very glad that you did, because now we get to benefit because of it. Keep up the fantastic work, and once again, thank you for being a guest through People of Distinction.
Absolutely. Thank you for calling me. And by the way, there's a bonus in the book. There's a picture of Muhammad Ali that's never been seen before that I took.